someone once said that leadership is doing things that you don't want to do. And that's absolutely true because it's doing things that you don't want to do often when nobody else will do them. And so even just daily having a tough conversation, picking up the phone call to call a client that you're dreading, just not letting those things get in the way and just kind of powering through.
Welcome, everyone, to Breaking Ground Women in AEC Leadership podcast. This is the show that lifts the voices, journeys, and insights of women shaping the future of architecture, engineering, and construction, and it's brought to you by Unanet. If you're in the architecture, engineering, or construction space, you know how critical it is to keep your projects on time, your teams aligned, your pipeline growing, and of course, your finances in check. And that's where Unanet comes in with project-based ERP solutions, CRM solutions, and an AI growth suite built specifically for AEC firms. We're your hosts, Rhianna Dempsey and Sarah Brown. And in each episode, we'll connect with professionals across the AEC industry to share real stories and hard-earned wisdom. At our core, we believe that a strong, diverse workforce drives innovation and success, and that women are essential to building the future of AEC. This is more than a conversation. It is a community focused on growth and lasting impact. Let's get started. All right. We are speaking to Mariah Meyer, President and CEO at BRR Architecture. And I could read an official formal bio, but we always find it's a little bit more personal if you just share with us. We'd love to hear some career highlights and also anything just, personal that you would want our listeners to know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm Mariah, born and raised in the Kansas City area. That's where BRR's headquarters is. So, studied architecture at the University of Kansas. Didn't go too far from home for that. After college, though, I moved to Chicago. Started my career in Chicago. Had the pleasure of working for two different firms there. Worked for Perkins and Will for 4 years, and then worked for a firm called OWP&P. They've since been acquired by Canon Design, so they don't exist anymore in that state, but worked there for another 4 years and had great experiences. I'm so thankful for both of those experiences because I draw from those constantly. And my current role is president and CEO at BRR. In 2010, moved back to Kansas City, joined BRR at that time, so have been here for coming up on 16 years now. My time at BRR, I've gotten to work on retail projects, entertainment projects, mixed use, spent a lot of time in the hospitality world. And all of that's kind of leading up to my current role as the company's president and CEO, where I get to influence all of the different markets that we're active in. Outside of work, my husband and I have two daughters. They keep us very busy with their high school and middle school social lives. So we spend a lot of time driving them around and juggling their schedules.
I'm feeling that. I'm a little just slightly behind you, but my daughter, we just had middle school orientation. So tell me it's going to be okay because I'm definitely
Yeah.
panicking
I'm
slightly.
feeling that
Yeah.
as well. Middle
Yeah.
school are on the verge, and I don't know if I can handle it. So I'm
I know.
nervous. I'm like, how is she going to handle this?
Well, the only way through it is through it. So
Yep.
you just gotta go.
That's,
Bite the bullet, huh?
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
So we like to kick things off with a brief, casual icebreaker.
Okay.
What is the most memorable business lunch that you've ever had? And was it because of the deal or the food or the company?
So this is kind of a funny story. It was several years ago in Las Vegas, and we were there for a conference. So a few colleagues of mine, one of my superiors, and he was totally out of his element being in Vegas, being at a sushi restaurant. The clients that we were entertaining had chosen the place, but this guy's kind of a Kansas country boy and knew what he was supposed to do, but you could just tell that he was so nervous. He just told the waiter to bring whatever he wanted because he didn't know really what he was ordering off of this Vegas sushi restaurant. And so more things just kept coming and his eyes got bigger and bigger and he picked up the check and I don't think he had ever I don't think he had ever seen a bill that high. But anyway, we were teasing him after the fact for being so out of his element. But
Oh my
it was
God.
fun. Yeah.
Oh no, that's where his controller or CFO, hits him up later and goes, so about that
What was
sushi,
this?
What was
what was this? Oh,
Can
that's
I
awesome.
tangential, very short, ridiculous story. My stepdad was telling us he also was at a sushi restaurant and thought that, like, not his favorite type of food,
Yeah.
thought that the wasabi was guacamole. And
Oh,
of course, my
no.
husband and I are like, they don't normally serve guacamole at sushi
Right.
places. Love you, Dave, if you're listening. My stepdad's the best. But yeah, he took a big giant
Oh,
scoop
no.
of wasabi, and that was unpleasant. So yeah,
Yes.
gotta be careful at the
Yeah.
Japanese restaurants if you're not used to the cuisine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, any project in particular that you're proud, like, super proud of, or one of the most fun projects that you guys have
Yeah.
delivered?
Yeah, there's a couple that stand out, and honestly, the most rewarding have been the most challenging. There's one from a throwback. AMC Theaters was a big client of ours for a while, and we would go into some of their most difficult projects, most difficult properties, and then do facelifts, renovations. One of the most challenging projects was an AMC theater at Roosevelt Field Mall on Long Island outside of New York City, and it was, I mean, just from, I won't go into the details, but the start to the finish was just a total transformation and took one of their lowest performing properties into one of their highest performing properties. And so we kind of took down some exterior walls and reskinned the whole building, put on some exterior corridors that were encased in glass. And so just totally transformed that property, which was really rewarding to see. There were times throughout that project where the project architect and I were kind of wondering, like, is this even possible? What are we thinking? There's no way this is going to happen. And we made it happen. And then another more recent project, we just completed the Compton Hotel in Bentonville, Arkansas. Just celebrated their grand opening at the end of last year. And that was a long project. I think we worked on it for a total of 6 years. Maybe
Wow.
maybe it even got up to 7. But anyway, it was just from, again, where that project started to where it ended up, it definitely had a journey and a life of its own. And we just got word last week that it was nominated for a design award with HD Hospitality. So yeah, that's really exciting. And we'll find out more about that in Vegas in the coming months. So
Awesome. That's
yeah,
great.
That is very cool.
yeah, yeah, definitely
Now,
rewarding.
are ribbon cutting still a thing for are they?
Yes, yes, they definitely are. Yes, and so, yeah, that hotel celebrated a big ribbon cutting, and,
Yeah.
yeah, they're more for kind of public-facing properties, but every project that gets to that milestone is worth celebrating for sure.
Very cool. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing those.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you won't be surprised by this statistic, I don't think, but women hold about 9% of executive positions in architecture and engineering firms. And one of our efforts through this podcast is to really meet those women that are in that 9%, and in the hopes of sharing some advice, having some conversation to open the door for those numbers to increase. And so, in regards to what it took to get there and the perseverance, what can you speak to that you really feel like helped shape the leader that you are today to get you to where you are?
Yeah, I'll answer that question, but I kinda wanna speak to the statistic first. I'm not surprised, it is the reality, but it was never really a factor for me. It wasn't really ever something that I thought about. It wasn't ever something that I saw myself as different in any way. I was just doing the job, right? Doing the job, doing the best job that I could. I never, maybe it was being naive, but I never really felt like I was at a disadvantage over anyone else. I just kind of buckled down and did what I had to do. So there have been times, a few memorable times where I was the only woman in the room and I didn't realize that until somebody else pointed it out. I don't know what that says about the mentality or the perspective, but I think it's just something unique and maybe it's, served me well, that it's just never been something I've really even thought about or focused on. But in answer to your question about the perseverance, you know, it, it's big things and little things. It comes into play every single day. Someone once said that leadership is doing things that you don't want to do, and that's absolutely true because it's doing things that you don't want to do often when nobody else will do them. And so even just daily having a tough conversation, picking up the phone call to call a client that you're dreading, just not letting those things get in the way and just kind of powering through. So it comes up in the little things, but I did want to share a story about kind of a bigger example of perseverance. And this is kind of throwing back to 10 years or so ago. And I wasn't in the position I'm in, obviously, but we had with the work that I was doing, I kind of realized that we needed to make some pretty big changes with how we were delivering projects at BRR. I won't get into too many of the details of what we were doing versus what we ended up doing, but it was something that I saw, and I had conversations with leadership, had conversations with clients, and kind of kept getting, now's not the time. Let's not do that. Who's going to pay us to do that? And so kept getting pushback, but I kept at it because I really saw that if we weren't evolving with the industry, we weren't going to be set up for success in the future. And I wasn't even really thinking about the company at the time. I was thinking about my own career development, and I didn't want to be left behind while my peers were evolving at other firms or even within BRR. So I definitely wasn't thinking that big picture. It was more of a selfish motivation, but I kept at it. What it ended up having to do was come up with, a well-written business plan to convince the leadership that this was what we needed to do and that it wasn't going to impact them. And then myself, along with a couple other teammates, we had to create this plan and then execute the plan totally outside of working hours. We ended up
Mm.
kind of doing a project in tandem the new way alongside the real project we were doing the old way, if you will. And so I mean, that was basically I would do my day job and then I would do my day job again at night, just to prove this concept of this is possible, we can do it, better. And, eventually it, ultimately that translated throughout the company and that is much more of the way that we're working today. But it would have been easier just to take the feedback and say, yeah, okay, you're right, tell me when. Or, not to put in that extra time and effort where if I was worried about just working 9 to 5 or, work-life balance, like, it would have been easier to not keep powering through that project. That was really, a self-initiated, self-serving project I saw at the time.
And I'm so interested in the more conversations we have with people on this podcast, it's just so evident. The most basic principle is just hard work. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
somewhere along the way that's gotten lost in the shuffle or something because you hear about people, they just expect like this will be handed
yes.
to me, or I've worked here for 10 years and now I get to have some title, or and it's like that is not how these things normally work. And so it's just interesting because we just keep hearing this over and over again from people that have made it to your seat or close to your seat. And it's like, really, guys, yeah, like putting your head down and doing the hard work is
Yeah.
kind of the back to basics in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was never and I don't know whether this is unique to me or not, but I was never really concerned with where I was going. I was concerned with doing the best job with the task at hand, and everything else just fell into place. All the opportunities that I've been given were earned for sure.
Yeah. Well, and going back to you said it, but being a leader, it's not for everyone, and
Yeah.
it can be really hard. It can be incredibly rewarding. I think it's rewarding in my experiences with it, but it can, you have the financial elements that are on your shoulders for the whole business. And, you have to make changes with people. You have to
Yep.
give the tough feed, like you said, have the tough conversation. And how do you balance all of that? Clearly, you have the perseverance, you have that, hard work mentality, balancing that with sort of the empathy and the people side of leadership. What does that look like, in your seat?
Yeah, I don't know that there is an empathy or people side to it. That's all it is,
Mhm.
that has to come through in every tough decision that you're making. I mean, in my role, I 100% have to put the company first in every decision that I make. But if I don't think of the company, if I think of the company separate than the 300 plus individuals that are here, then, I'm losing sight of why we're here every day. And
Mhm.
that's really to provide all of these people with the growth and the career and the home that they can be fulfilled and satisfied in. And so, yeah, we do have to make tough decisions, but even tough decisions, tough feedback can be delivered with empathy, and I think communication is really what it comes down to more often than not. You might have a very strategic reason for making a decision or making a change that people might not understand. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about how a message is going to be received by, 10 different people at 10 different levels in the organization. And what their motivations are and how they're going to interpret something. So, I'm never not thinking about the people, no matter how tough the day is or how tough the situation is. And then I will say I'm so blessed to be working alongside some really great partners that I can bounce ideas off of. They do the same with me. But one thing that we really do for each other is we continue to challenge each other. If we're thinking about something, we're playing devil's advocate. We're poking holes in an idea, and we're just constantly challenging each other in that way. And I think that really keeps us all accountable in our roles for not going too far into the financials and letting that be the only driving force, or too far into the people and letting that be the only driving force, because we keep each other balanced.
That's so important. It's like the whole, healthy debate, Patrick Lencioni's model, right? Like that is so critical. That
Yeah.
trust and being able to like have that healthy friction, because
Yeah.
without it, yeah, you can kind of go too far in one direction. And sorry, just
Yeah.
one more. You said so much in just that first response.
Yeah, that was all like
I was
gold.
like,
It was
I want
gold
to
right there.
I want to go deep. I mean, I have 3 kids. Sarah has 3 kids. You have 2. It's like I think that struggle, and I think we've come a long way in society. You're seeing a lot more articles and books about how to have more 50-50 split of, the invisible work that, just historically is fallen on the moms a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so here you are doing 2 jobs, right? Like you're trying to get
Mhm.
this idea, you believe in it. You're like, how did that all work with I'm also a mom, I'm also a wife, and I'm trying to do this great. Like, how did you any tips or tricks or
Yeah.
strategies?
I mean, for sure, we've got some battle scars for sure, but I think the one thing in hindsight, it does get better. No chapter lasts forever.
Yeah.
My husband's is an architect too, and so he definitely understands what I'm dealing with at work. If I say I have a deadline or a difficult client, he understands what that means. So I think that helps. You don't have to justify continuously what it is that you're going through. But I mean, when we were in the trenches with little kids, we had agreements where if I could work late one night, he could work late the next night. We just kind of had to balance that. I live close to my parents. They helped a ton.
Yeah.
If we had sick kids, he'd take the morning, I'd take the afternoon. So there were, I think having that strong support network. My parents pick up my kids from school on most days, get them to practices. They just help with a lot of the logistics. Again, just very fortunate to have that support network outside of work.
That's amazing. I'm
But again,
very
it's a chapter. It gets better.
it
They get more
gets
self-sufficient.
yes.
So,
And then you
yeah.
miss the days when they needed you more,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Has your husband applied to BRR?
No, no. I
You're
did.
like, not, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We've never worked together, and that's probably for the best.
Yep. Totally, totally agree there. Uh,
That's very cool.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I just had a little fuzzy head come behind me
Oh.
that's 2 feet tall. And I was like, yep, very timely, very
There he
timely.
is.
But they
Yeah.
won't be 2 feet tall forever.
No,
So
no. And
eh,
now, side note, I've got a high schooler. I'm counting down the days until, she launches, and that's very
oh,
bittersweet. So, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I miss the trenches.
Yeah. Yeah.
no. In high school, she'll be headed off to college, possibly.
Yep, yep,
Speaking of colleges, so one
yes.
unique fact we found out about you is that you've served on the Dean's Advisory Board at the University of Kansas.
Yes, yeah,
So could
yeah.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's been a great kind of surprise, something I wasn't really set out to do, but being reconnected with my alma mater since moving back to the Kansas City area has been great. I've met lots of great people there, gotten to work with professors as well as the administration of the school. And so the purpose of the advisory board is really to advise the college on what we as professionals think they need to be focused on to graduate architects that we want to hire. And that's at a high level, there's more to it than that. We have opportunities to engage with the students and mentor them as they get ready for their career, but ultimately the dean of the school is pulling us in to advise him on his mission. It's been just great to kind of see behind the scenes of how universities work, the people that are involved. I've gotten to connect with lots of professors, work on some different initiatives related to scholarships and student engagement and student support. So that's been rewarding. And then connected with lots of students from a mentorship relationship. So every semester I've got a couple, and also selfishly, it gets me back up to campus. I get to get to go back up to campus and meet with them, and it's always great to be back in Lawrence.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah.
Is there something that you feel like recently or maybe this past fall that you felt like imparting to those students about, preparing for graduation or getting that first job?
Yeah, it's funny, I wasn't really expecting this. We have so many conversations around AI in the workplace, and I know you guys too do too, just with the line of work that you're in, and
Only like every hour.
exactly. And
Just that.
I mean, we've talked about at the advisory board level, we've talked about AI, and it's everywhere. There's no denying that. But I had a student ask me if I would be able to tell if they used AI for their portfolio. And I kind of caught me off guard because it
Ooh,
just keeps coming into these conversations where I'm not expecting it. Whereas, a portfolio is, a representation of the work that you've done. And so, anyway, it was an interesting conversation about what was a tool versus a misrepresentation. And so, again, kind of just gave them my 2 cents on that and what the right balance was, but wasn't expecting that one to come out of that conversation.
that is I feel like we could definitely have a whole
Yeah, we could
conversation about
definitely
this
go down
Yeah.
topic.
that road quite a
Yeah.
bit. I
Right.
feel like
Right.
even personally, so we're looking at building a house, and my husband is obsessed on staying on the front lines of all things AI. And he was like, "Do we really need a drawer? Do we need an engineer and the architect and all the things? Look what it can do." I told him what kind of house I wanted and how many rooms, and it shows the walls and it shows the roof. And I was like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Look, I added landscaping." And I was like, "Yes, but there's like, 6 panes on that one window, which wouldn't make any sense. And if you rotated that image, it's not the roof lining wouldn't line up. It
Yeah.
isn't there yet. It's
Yeah.
a tool, I'm sure, in many in many aspects to go granular and will as we evolve into that. But it is absolutely nowhere near replacing that
Yeah.
human ingenuity and education and life experience and the
Yeah.
math. It can math, but it hasn't quite conceptualized all of the ways that we use it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Your house will look great until you try to build it.
Yes.
Yeah, the picture will be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be a house of straw.
Yeah.
Well, in the same like talking about younger leaders and those in college and coming out, one of the things we touched on previously was you had mentioned current leaders have the responsibility to support the pipeline of the next generation of leaders. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's such an inspirational quote. I'm definitely gonna LinkedIn that one. But can you expand a little bit more on what do you feel like that ideal pipeline looks like?
Yeah.
Maybe
And I'll maybe just give some context as to why
yeah.
that's so important to me. There are plenty of people who, go through their lives and their careers successfully, and that's not a focus. They get into their profession with the intent of serving their career, then hanging up the hat and not really thinking about what comes next. But being where I am at BRR, which is a 60-year-old company, we understand that our role as leaders is that we are responsible and we're stewards for this company for a very short time in its life. And then our job is to pass it on to the next generation for them to take their turn. And so when we think about that through every aspect of what it is that we do, we're training people, not necessarily always to be great leaders, but even just to be great architects. There's such
Mhm.
a history of apprenticeship in this profession, in this field. And I think that gets into the root of why we do what we do and one of the most important ways to give back. So that's where I'm coming from. I mean, selfishly, yes, I need somebody to take their turn so that I'm not sitting here forever. But on the other
And
hand,
you
on
need the building to not fall down.
a right, right. But yeah, on a bigger level, I think it is a responsibility that we all should take seriously. So the good thing is that we've got lots of great people. I think, going back to that hard work, and that definitely is something that I wish more younger people realized. Not just working harder all the time, but working smarter. We've got everything under the sun. We've got people who will work till 2 a.m. every day, but they're not necessarily being effective or they're not working through others. And then we've got people who want to work too much through others and they don't want to do anything themselves. So kind of just finding that right balance of hard work, but also impact is spend a lot of time here at BRR talking about what someone's impact can be and how
Mhm.
they can increase their impact while potentially decreasing their effort. So kind of just working through that balance, but people are just thinking about getting the job done, doing what they're asked to do, leaving at 5. There's a lot of talk about that work-life balance where I've always believed that the work is what allows for the life. So, I mean, want everybody to be happy, healthy for sure, but I it's not always gonna be 50-50. It's rarely going to be balanced.
Yep. That I you always you see the new work-life integration as
Yeah.
the new because it's yeah, the balances and like you said, there's phases, like, if a project
Yeah.
needs to get done and you need to kind of ramp up, but then maybe you have a little bit of a
Yeah.
period where you can back off and you can take a little bit more time
Yep.
at home,
Yep.
but then it goes back and forth. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, being flexible and yeah, the hard work element, I'm just maybe it's just how I was raised too. It's like
Yeah.
you have to do the work and then,
Yeah.
good things will happen, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
see people saying, one thing I always encourage people is to say yes to opportunities. You never know what's going to happen. Say yes, give it a try. When you're young in your career, you should be trying everything.
Mm.
Um, and I, maybe to a fault, jumped into too many things without even thinking. It was just like, sure, I'll try that. Or can you take this on? Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. And I just see a lot of this contemplation of, is that's what's best for me? I don't know. Can I do this? I don't know. Just go for it.
And I would say, again, I don't like to make generalizations about women in general, but as a woman, I think I can my observation is we just have worse imposter syndrome
Yeah.
than men seem to have. Like they seem, oh, I only fit that one thing. I'll apply for that role or I'll put in for that promotion. And like we're
Yeah.
like, let's think about all the reasons why it might not be perfect. And it's like we need to
Yeah.
get out of our own way sometimes. And like you said, just like go for the thing and not be
Yeah.
so worried about everything not being perfect. And I'm again speaking from experience.
Yeah.
I
But
used to do
there
that badly,
yeah.
you know?
And there is a fair amount of fake it till you make it. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. There
Yep.
just is. So
100%. Well, and the thing I just love these industries, it's my dad has a construction firm that he started 30 years ago. My cousin is now at the helm there. My husband works there. So I made the comment about, does your husband, because I was like, I'm not working there if you're
yeah.
there. We're just
Right.
not
Right.
doing that. But you're like I just feel like it's refreshing because I think there's a lot of in the business world, I mean, I don't think there is in the business world. It's just we're doing this for money. We're doing
Yeah.
this for as much profit and the quickest amount of time. And we're not thinking about like I just love it because so many AEC firms that we get to interact with in, our role as a software company, you just hear that so often. It's like we're thinking about the legacy and
Mhm.
that impact. And it's not just about the money. Like, yes, we need to be profitable. Our projects need to have good margins or we won't
Yeah.
have a business. But like it seems like there's just this thread of we are focused on the next generation and making sure that you're here in another 60 years and that
Yeah.
continues and
Mhm.
it's refreshing because it's not every industry. So I really
Yeah.
love
I
that.
think it comes there are very few industries that are truly service providers. I mean, the only thing that we sell is our time. That's the only thing. I mean, you can't buy something that we make off of a shelf. We can't mass produce anything. So when it comes to that, I mean, humans really are at the core of everything that we are here for. You know, every hour, every thought, every effort is really what our commodity is.
Yeah.
And so if we don't take care of that, then it's not going to be great for the next generation.
Yeah. I feel like we could definitely keep going.
Yeah.
All this is always the problem Sarah and I
Yeah.
have.
I
Like,
know.
this could be a 2-hour episode, right? People will
Yeah.
listen for
Mm.
2 hours. And I feel like there's a lot of things we could take out of this conversation that could fit this answer here. But if you had to choose just one or two lines of advice that you want to leave us and all of our listeners with, what would be kind of something that you'd want to leave behind?
Yeah. I mean, other than saying yes, I really think it's to be curious and to stay curious, about people, about the world, about processes, read a ton, kind of, be a lifelong learner and embrace that. I think as architects, we really are inherently curious people. Wheels are always spinning around, what the world could like or what's could look like or, what's behind that door, what's around that corner. But I'm really afraid that curiosity is being lost. The world is too busy and there's too many things coming at us in too many different ways. And at risk is just those quiet moments of wonder and
Mhm.
of, wondering why or what if. So I think just that, that curiosity is important. It's important for innovation. It's important for change. It's just important to bring new perspectives to the work that we do. So that deeper understanding of the world around us is going to allow, for better architects, better individuals, and better people all around. So stay curious.
I love that. Mariah, thank you so much. It has been super fascinating and interesting to hear your story. And just great that you decided to join us today. I know you're
Yeah.
probably very busy. So appreciate it. And we just wish you all the success at BRR and beyond. And
Thank
um,
you.
of course, we want to thank our groundbreakers, all of our listeners. Thank you for listening today. And if our episode resonates with you, please make sure to follow, leave a review, or share it with someone in your network. And if you have a story to share, please send us an email. Our contact information is in the podcast bio. We are always looking for our future guests. So until next time, keep breaking new ground.